I'm here with Eamon Kelly, who's the General Manager, Major Program Delivery at Melbourne Water, and we're talking about safety culture on big work sites. G'day.
G'day. G'day. Good to be here, Ellen.
Major program delivery, $4 billion the water industry does a year, often through contractors. What's the safety challenge there?
Well, for us in particular at Melbourne Water, we have a $500 million capital program a year, and to deliver that scale of infrastructure, we need to rely heavily on our contractors. We tend to use tier one, what we call tier one contracting firms. For us, it's John Holland, CPB contractors, but they inherently feel the need to subcontract a lot of their work. And so what we see is a whole layering of contracting entities of varying scales through our capital program.
And why can't you leave it to somebody as experienced as John Holland or one of their contemporaries to communicate a safety culture, zero tolerance for accidents through the subcontractors and all the way through?
Well, I think that's what we have been doing to a large degree over a number of years. And for us in particular, and the case study we're talking about here at Ozwater is a realisation that that's not good enough for us. We're not getting to the level of safety performance that we know we can achieve because the major contractors are commercial entities. They will always shop around for what they consider to be the best deal when they're subcontracting out their works, and they will contract out their risk along with that. So what we see from a client's perspective is quite a highly transient workforce coming onto our projects. A lot of our sites are major hazard facilities, and what we would prefer to do is build up a level of knowledge with everybody that has anything to do with working in and around our major hazards. We find that very difficult when we have a transient workforce. There's always a steep learning curve for a number of contractors coming to our sites, and inherent in that is a risk that we think we can significantly reduce.
And I mean, what is the risk? Can you not simply produce a handbook that says, this is our appetite for risk, this is what we're prepared to tolerate, and this is the safety culture we expect? There you are, put that in the back of the contract as an appendix, off you go.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that, and we do that. We don't want to leave that to the sort of vagaries or the individual sort of choices. We want everybody to front of mind before they assess any activity, think safety first. That's not always what we tend to do. We see a lot of our incidents occur late on a Friday afternoon when people are thinking of other things. They're thinking about getting home to their families, they're thinking about what they're going to do at the weekend, or early on a Monday morning when they're recovering from a heavy weekend. We find people's concentration drifts, and that's often when we see incidents. And what we're trying to achieve is a cultural shift, a behavioural shift where people that come onto our jobs tend to pre-start first thing before they go out onto a site and have a conversation around safety, a meaningful conversation where they can buy into and switch on to the safety behaviours that we want to see around every one of our jobs.
So take me through the case study. How do you do it when in reality you're not doing it, the contractor's doing it?
Yeah, so within the case study, we unpack our journey, and two years ago, I wasn't long back into Melbourne Water. We were looking at our performance as across our capital program, and what shook us as a client was that we had two tier one contractors in John Holland and CPB predominantly within our framework agreement. Both operating at safety metrics that were the highest in their individual organisations for the region. So we looked at that, and rather than say this is unacceptable, pull your socks up, we said, well, we're a common denominator here. Why is this? Why do we have two preeminent contractors operating at significantly higher total recordable injury frequency rates than their colleagues on other projects working for other clients? And so we bought into the fact that we're part of the problem and not just the client expecting better performance. So we pulled together the contractors and all of their subcontractors that they were employing at that time to try and unpack why this was, try and better understand why we were seeing what we were seeing there. And over a period of time, through a number of workshops that we'll talk about through the case study, we believe we really got to a fundamental shift or an indication of what we needed to shift in people's behaviours to improve that safety equation.
So let me jump in. You ran a series of workshops with the contractors and the subcontractors, and what realisation did you come to about Melbourne Water's role in this higher than acceptable rate of safety incidents?
Well, when we got to communicate with the maybe second, third, or even fourth layer down of subcontractor, what we were hearing back was, these contractors, we see Melbourne Water has a system and a policy. We see the contractors have systems and policies. We don't see great alignment between those in some areas. We had subcontractors working for one main contractor who saw different processes to the other main contractor. They then saw different leadership traits within both organisations. They then saw a client sitting on top which possibly said the right things but wasn't always that visible around their sites. They didn't see that real authentic buy-in to their safety. And they didn't see a realisation through all of those entities, the commercial realities around safety. Safety for these smaller contractors equals money. Safety prevention equals cost. If they have to put extra scaffolding in, if they have to turn up to workshops and pre-starts, that time is money for these people. And in a competitive environment, they always felt that they were just screwed down to the lowest cost. And the first thing that gives in that equation is some of those areas of safety.
That's got to be hard to hear.
Yes, but you have to hear it. You have to ask the question. You have to be open to the answers, to the criticism, and you have to take it on the chin, and you have to move forward.
So what did you do?
We listened. We demonstrated, I think, over a period of time, a unity between ourselves and our contracting partners, our senior contracting partners, and we demonstrated to numerous subcontractors that were looking to work within that arrangement that we were being authentic around this. We wanted their feedback. We wanted to engage them around how can we make this better, and we listened to them and responded and fed back to them within quarterly. We still run quarterly forums with all of our subcontracting entities to continue to listen to their feedback and to continuously improve what we're doing.
So what did you do differently?
From the top, we became more visible in that safety space. We were more joined up with our contractors. So for myself, through all of my senior managers, we set our own targets around you will be seen on site, you will go to site, and not just go to site and have a look around and disappear and people say, oh, there's the big cheese, and they don't get to talk to you or anything. Go and have meaningful conversations. So we're encouraging our people, and this is a learning curve for our people as well. Go to site as a client, introduce yourself as the client, and have a meaningful conversation around, do you feel safe on this site? Is there anything we can improve? Just be authentic. Some of the feedback we got in the early days was, yes, we see the client, he's the person or she's the person walking around with the clipboard, and then we normally get smashed over the head when they disappear when the contractor says, well, the client's picked this up and this up and this up, rather than just have a conversation.
And what about outcomes? Has it made a difference to those metrics that you started with?
Absolutely, yeah. Look, one of the things what we've been very clear on is we don't want to just focus on the metrics. I think as an industry, and this is what we wanted to unpack at Ozwater, I think as an industry, and we use the provocative sort of opening statement that the water industry can be considered laggards in this safety space. I think we spoke earlier about the Shell, the petrochemical industry that tend to be much more on top of these type of issues, from a systems procedural point of view than we have been in the water space for many years. But I think it's more in that behavioural space that we haven't really applied ourselves from a water industry perspective, and creating those relationships with our contracting partners that really amplify the focus on water rather than detract from it.
Has it made a difference? Has it made the capital works projects safer?
It has for us. Again, we don't want to make the stats the primary focus. Within Melbourne Water ourselves, we're focused on what we call a generative safety culture. It's aligned with the Hudson model of generative safety. There's a whole load of information papers around that. But it's about making safety a way of life, almost an automatic sort of first thought that you have in your mind. So we're shifting our focus from safety stats to what we call the safety culture. How do you measure a culture? And we're coming up with all sorts of smart ideas around a vibe, just a feeling that you have around, when you get feedback from people. Do the people you talk to in senior positions, are they authentic around this stuff? Do you believe them, what they're telling you? Are they walking the talk type of thing? But the stats are, I'm not avoiding the question around that. The stats are improving. I mean, we had TRIFRs 2 years ago of 14, 15. We're down below 4 now. So we are encouraged by the fact that those stats are coming down, but we're not just looking at the stats. It's really it's a focus on the culture and the feel of that relationship, to the point where as an organisation, we've actually retendered our framework agreements predominantly with the focus of reducing that layering of subcontractors. We want to develop relationships with a more uniform workforce, with a less transient workforce, because we honestly believe that will drive better safety performance, because we will be able to engender a culture and maintain a culture of safety first.
Sounds like satisfying work.
Oh, it's very satisfying. I'm very passionate about it, and I get a lot of satisfaction from it. Yeah.
Thanks so much for talking with me.
Thanks very much.